Agency work session to order. Please join me in the flag salute.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So tonight, Councilor Matthews and Councilor Farmer are absent, and we have Mayor Benetti and Councilor Stevens virtually. The next item on the agenda is public comment. It looks like we have one signed up. Cheryl?
I think she's here for an agenda item.
An agenda item? Okay.
Yes.
Are there any comments online? Hearing none, I'll move on to review of the upcoming City Council and Urban Renewal Agency Board action items. Item A is discussion with representative from Tesla regarding electric vehicle supercharging station.
Hello, everyone. We've been here a couple times to talk about the Tesla charging station, and so I'm not going to go over past information, of course, unless you have questions. But at the last council meeting where we presented this issue, you asked that we bring back a representative from Tesla to talk about his program and answer any questions you may have. Between now and then, we have moved forward on the preferred location, and that preferred location, just to remind you, is the public parking lot at South 4th Street in Curtis. We're looking at putting the station towards the western portion of that parking lot adjacent to South 4th Street. So should we continue to move forward, the next steps, we're going to work with Tesla to complete the draft agreement. I included a copy of that in your report. And then once we have that agreement completed, or filled out anyways, we'll bring it to council for authorization to execute. And then Tesla's going to work with Pac Power and to see how viable the site is. Just want to put a note out there that per the Tesla rep, about 20 to 25% of the original sites get amended in some fashion. But what we would do is amend the agreement and then bring it back to you for execution or authorization. And if you want to know more about what causes sites to maybe get amended, I think our Tesla rep can talk about that. So unless you have any questions for me, I'd like to introduce Alex Shognecht. He's our Tesla representative. He's going to be joining us virtually. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay. Alex, you're on.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Good evening. My name is Alex Shognecht. I'm with Tesla. My title is project developer, which means I'm responsible for all of our supercharger infrastructure in the state of Oregon. I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to work with you. I think Coos is going to be a wonderful location for a supercharger. And I'm here to answer any questions you might have about the process or proposal.
Roger, do you remember? I don't think Drew's on the line, but I thought Drew, and I can't remember. He had some concerns about this. Can you recall what those are? Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, I'll see if I can check the notes to see.
Okay.
Was it in regards to them being proprietary and
That's it.
the future potential for those to be universal?
That is correct. Alex, can you speak to that at all?
I certainly can. We've got limited information right now. I'll answer everything to the best of my ability. The bottom line is that the superchargers that we will be building here will be compatible with non-Tesla vehicles. As for a specific implementation, I couldn't say that just quite yet. The reason being, all the superchargers we built thus far in North America are proprietary to Tesla vehicles, but we are working on opening up the network. We have launched a pilot over in Europe, allowing third-party vehicles to use our chargers. Elon has publicly stated that our goal is to open up the network here in North America, so that is something we're actively working on. I don't have details on the specific implementation, but I can say that the sites we're designing now are going to be compatible with non-Tesla vehicles.
So just so I'm clear, if we proceed with this, they will be immediately compatible with non-Tesla vehicles, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a question. I'm not sure if it's for Alex or Jennifer. I'm looking at the map that was provided. And it's my understanding that this was going to take up 8 to maybe 12 spots, but looking at the map, it's looking like 18 to 20 spots.
So it's 8 to 12 spots plus an additional 400 square feet for their electrical equipment.
And just to shed a little bit more light on that, so there will be 8 parking stalls, each equipped with a dedicated charge post. We need some additional square footage for the electrical equipment that supports the charge post, which is going to include a new utility transformer, some electric switchgear, what we call our supercharger cabinets, which contain the AC to DC rectifier hardware. And as Jennifer mentioned, that's going to be about 250, 300 square feet or so for all of that.
Thank you. Also, what's the cost to the consumer?
You know, I'm sorry to say, I don't have that number in front of me right now. We adjust our pricing on a somewhat regular basis, not dissimilar to the gas prices, although it is less expensive than gas, of course, these days. But what I can tell you and how that implementation works is that every owner ties a credit card to their account within their Tesla app. When they pull into the station, they simply plug in the car. There's a digital handshake that occurs so that we know which account to bill. And everyone will have information on cost of the station before they plug in, and we'll know just what their total amount billed is. The way we think about pricing as an organization is that it is more expensive to use a supercharger than, say, your electrical rate at home. And that's for a number of reasons. So, of course, Tesla needs to recoup our investment in building the station. Bringing in these high amounts of power are more expensive than a home service. A few other issues like that. But we do always want driving electric to be less expensive than driving a similar gas car.
Along those lines, can you speak to how, I mean, obviously, this is a pretty significant investment by Tesla. Can you speak to the need and what we might see? Obviously, we don't have a wealth of Tesla chargers in this market, so I would assume that's why you're looking at this area?
Yes, that's exactly right. So we've got nearby sites along the coast. The closest one to you is going to be in Bandon. And I shared with Jennifer, that site sees an average of just about 400 charge sessions a month. But there are seasonal fluctuations to that, obviously. But basically, we use the data from nearby charge sites to inform the capacity need of other sites in the area. We've got some very smart data analysts at our headquarters in California who are taking a look at our existing network, our sales forecasts, other data like that to project how many charge sites we need to build in order to keep up with our capacity needs. So when they tell me that, hey, Alex, we need to build 8 more charge posts on the Oregon coast, those are the opportunities I'm looking for.
So is that kind of what happened? Because originally, our staff did quite extensively research this and reach out, and it kind of went away, and then all of a sudden it was back. Is that what happened? Is those data collectors looked at that, this became more of a viable opportunity, and can you talk about that?
I can speak to that somewhat. Some of that might have been before my time. Candidly, my first call with Jennifer just a couple months ago was the first time this opportunity kind of appeared on my radar. So I couldn't speak to any previous outreach from the city, but I apologize if we dropped the ball on our end. But that said, yes, your intuition is right on how we
Thank you, Alex. Joe or Sarah, do you have any questions for Alex?
Yeah, I do. So Alex, how long, this is a supercharger, if I understand correctly, which means how long will it take to charge a Tesla new car?
Yeah, the average dwell time that we see is just about 30 minutes or so for most drivers. That's enough to get them up to about an 80% charge rate or enough to get them to the next charge station. There are a lot of factors that can affect how quickly your car can charge. For example, your state of charge when you pull into the station. That is, if your battery is much lower, say at 10% or below, you will charge faster in that portion of the battery than you would if you were at 70 or 80%, for example. But the short answer is that the average dwell time we see is just about 30 minutes.
So this will be 30 minutes, possibly we know 400 individuals, or hopefully Coos from the City Coast, who walk around market. And there's retail and areas.
Yes, that's exactly right. Joe, I'm sorry. I think I caught out in the echo a little bit here, but you just wanted to verify sort of what kind of economic development you can anticipate for the city. Your numbers and intuition are correct there.
So the habits of Tesla owners is generally, they don't just charge and take off. Are there habits that they stick around, take a look at their communities that they're stopping in?
Are there any additional questions from your end?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, it did. Thank you.
No problem.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me? I was asking, so are the habits generally of Tesla owners that they don't just charge and take off, that they generally look around, stop and take a look around the area that they're charging in? So it does create an economic driver for the community?
I don't think he can hear us.
I suppose any additional questions from council?
You want to try it?
Can you hear us, Alex?
Alex, can you hear me? This is Jennifer.
Can you text Joe?
Oh, she's saying that.
Joe says he can't hear either.
We got cut off here. This is Joe Benetti. Sounds like your council, I can't hear them.
No, neither can I. Thanks for confirming it's not just on my end.
Okay.
I'm wondering if either they're disconnected or
Stephanie, I'm just going to say no more questions.
it looks like they got muted.
Joe's girl is texted. She will not.
Let's try it now.
Can you hear us in the council chambers now?
Yeah, we can now.
Okay, my question was, so the habits of Tesla owners is that they don't generally just come in, charge for 30 minutes or whatever time that they're there for charging. The habits are to kind of stick around and check out the surroundings of the communities that they're stopping in?
That's right, that's generally the behavior you can see. And, I don't have firm data on that, of course, but it sort of just makes intuitive sense, right? If you are on a road trip and you need to be stopped for 20 to 30 minutes in order to top up, you might as well get out and stretch your legs. I can tell you from personal experience, road tripping with my 4-year-old in our electric car, supercharging making her a great stop to give her an excuse to get out and walk around a little bit, see the sights, maybe snap something.
Hey, Alex, is your app tracking the amount of time the person stays in the community where the vehicle is charged?
That is not something that we take a look at. We, of course, we want to be extremely sensitive to the privacy of our owners. All right, so we keep track of how much the stations are utilized, but not necessarily where vehicles are going around their charge session.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, I know Councilor Stevens was really excited about this project, and I am too. So I'm glad you called, and I hope that we pass this in the next council meeting. So thank you, Alex.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm always happy to answer additional questions as needed. And we really look forward to being able to build with you. I think a supercharger will bring great benefit to the community. And just as a personal note, I would love to make the trip down to Portland to see this one once it's open.
Thank you, Alex. Sarah, did you have anything before we let Alex go?
No, but for this part of TV word, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alex. We look forward to working with you in the future. Next item.
Good night.
Next item is presentation by Neighbor Works Umpqua regarding Coos Bay CDBG residential home repair program.
Carolyn may have an introduction to make.
Okay, Carolyn?
I do. About 2 years ago, about 5 minutes ago,
Hey, Carolyn.
Carolyn, can you hold on a second?
Carolyn, we can't hear you very well, so if you want, I'll just go ahead and do the introduction.
Perfect. Thank you.
See, in August of 2020, the community received our the Community Development Block Grant funds for a regional housing rehabilitation program. And we were awarded a $400,000 grant for the rehab of stick-built homes and manufactured homes on fee simple land, and another $100,000 for rehab of manufactured homes and manufactured parks in Coos Bay, Reedsport, and Coos County. Funds with a maximum up to $15,000 have been made available for owner-occupied households at or below the federal low moderate income limits, and it's adjusted for family size. Robert Witzel is here to give a presentation on this.
Hi, folks.
Thank you, Jim.
Hi, folks. It's nice to meet you. My name is Robert Witzel, and I work with NeighborWorks Umpqua as the single-family home repair manager. I'd like, actually, the opportunity, if you would. There we go. I'd like to take you on a journey of about 2 years. To start this journey, I want you to visualize a home. A small, on a hill, like that one, right there. An elderly lady sits at the kitchen table, looking at the water damage in her ceiling. Her dread mounts, yet again. It's not a momentary fear. It's instead a dread mounting over years as she watches her home decay around her. This woman has saved a little here and a little there over the years, $20, $50, $100, and bought materials for her now deceased roommate to work on her home. Slowly but diligently, he had replaced the failed siding on the exterior. It looks patchwork, but it's primed and repaired. She has family, but they all struggle to make ends meet, and she doesn't want to burden them. Over the years, she's watched her meager Social Security and her deceased husband's pension, a sum so small that it does not cover the Part B she needs to supplement her medical care, become worth less and less as minimum wage rises and the cost of living rises with it. She makes under 50% median income. She has some money stashed away, not much, but enough to paint her home when the summer comes. Her adult children will gratefully provide the labor. What she cannot afford is a roof. She could save all she makes from her Social Security and the pitiful pension for a year, and might not be able to afford a contractor and the materials to do the work. Those cost thousands of dollars, and she has little credit or income to afford it. This slight little lady was desperate a few years ago, and she reached out to us. When I called her to let her know that I had the funding that you helped obtain, she was resistant to filling out the assessment form. She had thoughts going through her head, like, what's this going to cost me? It's too good to be true. Folks, this is one lady's story. One lady that we helped with the Coos Bay Rehabilitation Program Community Development Block Grant, or as we refer to it, the Coos Bay CDBG. In actuality, it's the story of 31 families that we helped with the same program over the last year. Not all the specifics are shared. Some are married couples, some are single ladies, some are younger, single parents. But they all share the same general tone, the same fears, the same concerns, the same needs. In the earliest parts of 2020, before COVID changed our world, we started the process of seeking and obtaining and functioning the work that is the CDBG grant with you. The City of Reedsport and Coos County agreed to have the City of Coos Bay lead the work with our help to function 32 single-family home repairs in Coos County and within the city limits of Reedsport. At that time, I was merely the rehabilitation specialist working with NeighborWorks, currently working at that time in the city of Roseburg, Winston, and Myrtle Creek on another CDBG program. I was used to the challenges and wrangling contractors, projects, homeowners. During the grant cycle, I've seen many material cost increase and workload that had made it hard to function the work promptly. Then came COVID-19, and our world changed. Material prices fluctuated dramatically, and I do mean dramatically. I've seen wood lumber go from some of the lowest prices I'd seen in a while to triple the cost, and then back again in 3 months. Health and safety against an invisible enemy became a constant in our world, with social distancing, mask mandates, working from home, or job loss. We lost a portion of our contractors in southwestern Oregon as they lost their businesses, their will to struggle in a world with dramatic changes, or just decided to hang up their hats and retire. I do hear that Florida is still beautiful. NWU has also seen dramatic changes in our lifestyle, our leadership, our work life, and our ability to interact effectively. New methods were found to function the work and manage the feelings of disengagement that came with working from home. During that time, all 3 of my superiors left the company for varying reasons. I would like to note that lovely lady right up there is Erica Mills, and she is our current new CEO with NeighborWorks Umpqua and my direct supervisor. 2 of my previous coworkers were amazingly supportive, knowledge, capable people that I could depend on to help me find solutions when things went south. Or as I like to refer to it now, when things went 2020. I struggled to start the process of work on the Coos Bay CDBG because of delays and policies over which at the time I had no control. Those changes were noted by the City of Coos Bay and concerns grew. I stepped into this role as a manager of program amid that madness and my own illness, which we'll discuss in a moment. It is with deep humility, not my strength, and gratitude that I thank you for allowing me to present today. Carolyn Johnson gave me a chance as a new person struggling to learn to manage this program. I had only processed the work once before. You want to talk about diving into the deep end? That's what I did. I also like to acknowledge Tanya Davis. She carried a lot of the weight of the documentation and the work behind the scenes for the city of Coos Bay. Over time, I was able to ease Carolyn's concerns as she watched me grow into this role. And I thank her for her faith in me as we work together to get through this. What a ride. I'm proud today to tell you that we're concluding the CDBG program. We've completed 27, actually I apologize, 28 of the projects or for the homeowners within the commute program. What follows is some pictures of some of the work that was completed here in Coos County. If you have any clarifying questions about what you see, you're more than welcome to ask me about it at the end. I'd be happy to elaborate. We processed roughly 62 projects for 31 homeowners with repairs ranging from roofs, window replacement, walk-in showers, flooring, decks, ramps, siding, doors, interior walls, heating, electrical and ceilings, bathtub and shower replacement, gutters, fascia and soffits. For those that are not aware, fascia is on the front face of your roof and soffits is underneath. For a total of more than $400,000, of which $381,000 came from the Coos Bay CDBG. On that note, I'd like to take a few moments to introduce you to a few people that are present today, though not as many as I'd hoped. First, I'd like to start with some of the contractors that stepped in and helped us and provided repairs to our homeowners. That gentleman right there is Kent Wagner, Roland Kent Wagner's Construction. He processed 12, something like that, 12 of our homeowners' homes. I'd say projects because he actually processed more like 18 projects. Some of the projects or some of the homes will have multiple projects involved in them. I'd also like to give a shout out to some of the others that are not here. An example would be Lee Schrader with Top Pin Construction. He also functioned somewhere around 12, 13 of the various homes that we worked on throughout this process. Another one is James Co. Roofing. He did 2 of the roofs on this project. Pacific Air Comfort has turned around and provided heating for 3 of our homes in this project. As a matter of fact, he's finishing one tomorrow. So it's hard for me. These people engaged in the work we do. But they didn't do it just for a profit. They did it with deep heart and did more than was expected. Their bids and their willingness to see left profit made the work possible with the costs that we were looking at and the challenges that we were facing. They stepped above and beyond the call of duty. That alone is a blessing. But they did this amidst the madness of the material price fluctuations. Lack of employees willing or able to do the work. And concerns about their own safeties and the safeties of our homeowners. On that note, I'd also like to allow any of the homeowners that may be present to stand up and be acknowledged, if they so choose. The reality is, they struggled also because they were allowing people into their homes in a time when most people wouldn't walk within 6 feet of you if you paid them. Well, except maybe when you paid them. You have to get closer to at a cash register. They let people into their homes. They found themselves in very uncomfortable places. And they dealt with the challenges of watching changes happening and the uncertainty that does come with construction. The reality is, we don't live in a world where somebody says it's going to be this amount and it's going to be that amount. It doesn't work like that anymore. Go ahead and work ahead a couple. In a world where health was a serious concern, most of there were considered, they were a part of the most at-risk populations. The majority of the people that I helped were over the age of 65. They allowed contractors to be in their home to get repairs that they needed, and they did it because they were desperate. And they're not the only ones. They did it while some became hospitalized with severe health issues. I'm sad to say I wouldn't be surprised if we lose one of them. Has nothing to do with COVID, though. I myself, that is a lovely picture of me, was hospitalized for 10 days in September with COVID. Delta ravaged me. Had me in the hospital for 10 days, and I'm still working on the road to recovery, 9 months later. I'm extremely grateful to say that we've lost not a single homeowner or contractor over the last 2 years. 3 of my contractors contracted and suffered COVID. The closest we came to losing anybody was me. None of my homeowners contracted it while we worked because of the diligence of the homeowners and the contractors as they worked together to try and be as safe as possible. In summary, roughly $381,000 will have been spent repairing 31 homes in Coos Bay, Reedsport, and Coos County. We expect to complete all work near the end of July and all draws completed to start closing the CDBG very soon after that, beating our timeline by about 3 months. Instead of ending this on a note of success, I'd ask your forgiveness as I ended on a note of need. I'd like to say we've resolved the problem, but the fact is we haven't. I will be starting very soon on a Douglas County CDBG as we continue our journey, our mission, to help with home repairs in southwestern rural Oregon. I could easily spend millions of dollars helping the people that have already contacted us just in Coos County. And for those that don't know, we serve Coos, Curry, Douglas, and I believe we're adding on Josephine soon. As the cost of living continues to rise, this work's going to become more and more important. And I plan to return as soon as possible to do this work here again. I hope that the city of Coos Bay, you fine folks, would welcome the opportunity to help us once more, to help the people in our little haven of the world become a little less fearful, have a little bit more hope, as we diligently make this place a little bit better. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask. I'll answer them to the best of my ability.
Thank you, Robert. Thanks for sharing your story and for the work that you've done and all the obstacles you've had to go through to get here, first of all. And thanks to Kent and all the contractors and everybody else that helped work on this project. It makes me proud that we were able to partner with you. Council, do you have, Cheryl, is this the item you wanted to discuss?
Yes, sir.
Would you like to make a comment?
Yes, sir. I'm a shorty. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having me. I live in North Bend, but my first encounter with Coos Bay was the Coos Bay Fire Department when I moved here in 2007. Came from down there, and we stopped in the fire department, and your fire department said, this is a neighborhood to move to, this is a neighborhood to stay away from, this one's got future possibilities, and I won't go on, but you folks have done a lot. And I work for Fred Meyer. I'm a grocery checker. I work part-time. So I hear all the stories of the people from North Bend and Coos Bay, the seniors that are always complaining. It's not enough this, it's not enough that. Well, I'm here to tell you I was very grateful for you folks in this program. The contractor stayed with me to let me know when he was coming, when he was going. The same thing with Robert through Neighbor Works, let me know what was going on. I couldn't say enough about the program. The program has saved my life. Sooner than that, when I had lost one of the jobs I had, I went to these folks, and I didn't lose my home. So there are resources that people need to realize that you guys are there for them, but most people my age don't understand that it does take patience. I mean, with my hours up and down, the guys had to be there at a certain time. I had to get up no matter what time it was, and I knew it was going to be a struggle, but I worked with them, they worked with me, and I couldn't have done it without this is a great guy you have here, ma'am. I didn't catch her name. So again, thank you, council, for putting that together. And by the way, I love you. He is a super officer. So thank you for hearing me out, and God bless you guys for everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Council, do you have any questions or comments for Robert or Cheryl?
I think that you kind of alluded to the need that's still out there in the future, but how quickly did the application process go to where you were at capacity once it opened?
Well, Stephanie, I'd love to say that you asked me a really easy question, but you didn't. And it's not a simple question. I can answer this way. I currently have a list that I just added the 546th person to. Coos County has the highest amount. That same person is Coos County, actually, and I believe he was 277th on the list. We're able to cycle 31 to 32 of these every time we come back here to help, roughly, with the funding that we have available. I try and keep it minimized, but I was hoping for 33 or 34. With the price of material costs, that just did not happen that way. And it is what it is. I don't have any power there. We had 83 people, I believe, that I assessed throughout the whole process, of which only 32 of them met the requirements of the grant. Based off that number, it would take me 2 more cycles, and then I'll be back here. I'm guessing, best guess, with intention, 3 years right now. We're hoping to do Douglas County this next year. I think we were talking Jackson and Curry as a mixed county the year after, and then hopefully cycling back here. Main thing is being in a position where we can get the funding, because if you have too many COVIDs going, or if you have too many CDBGs going, then we can't turn around and fold down the funding. But that being said, I look forward to working with you guys again, and I look forward to helping our community again. Because for me, this is personal. I watched my mom's house fall apart. I know what it's like.
Well, I definitely know that we've seen a lot of deferred maintenance year after year, and I'm always, it's easier for me to visualize how complex of a need there is here with numbers, so I appreciate you putting a number to that for me.
You've also spoken about the work that others have done with Deep Heart, but I think we should acknowledge you for, as you said, it's personal for you, and you have a lot of empathy, and I think that passion is why these projects get done. So I would like to thank you as well.
Well, that's why she puts up with me, I swear.
Thank you and the contractors and everyone involved and the staff. Glad you leaned in. Glad you went to the deep end of the pool. 31 families were taken care of as a result of you doing the work and the staff helping. So thank you for your work as well through this process.
But you're more than welcome.
Erica, did you want to make a comment while you're here?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to express our gratitude to the city of Coos Bay for being the lead applicant on this project. I know that it was a heavy lift at times, and that our leadership transition at the beginning of the project didn't make it easy. And I want to thank Marilyn and Tanya for hanging in there with us and seeing us through to the end. I think ultimately the result was really excellent for our community, for the members, the residents of Coos Bay who are served by the project. Like Robert said, we're bringing it back and continuing to serve the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Joe or Sarah, did you have any comments? Hearing none, I guess I'll just again say thank you for sharing the story. You obviously, like Lucinda said, have a lot of passion for this, and it shows. And also, thank you, Erica. And thank you to the staff, also Carolyn and the staff who worked on this. Thank you. Do you guys care?
No,
That's fine with me.
No, go ahead.
yeah.
I want to make a quick comment.
You're the person under 65, right, that he mentioned? There were a few under 65.
67, thanks. I just wanted to make one more comment to say that this really was a big project, and I'm a first-time home buyer, and my home, when I looked at 110 houses, this was the only home that was staged pretty good, so I said, okay, I'm going with it. Well, I bought the home in 2012, and slowly everything is going downhill. And again, without this program, because I don't have family here, I don't have, contractor knowledge, or I try to have the basic knowledge of keeping my home going, of course, but without them, I don't know where I would be. That's how big this is. To my heart, out to you guys' heart, I don't think I would have been able to stay in my home, because my carpeting was so bad that it was causing me health issues. So again, thank you. I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you, Cheryl. Okay, next item on the agenda is review of official canvass of votes, May 2022 election results. Nicole?
Yes, thank you. Our city charter requires that we present for the record the results of the election. We've already, as the election's official, that usually falls on the recorder, those have been accepted by the city and formally closed out with the county, but we are required by charter to bring this to the council before you and record that in our records. So we've provided you with the canvas that comes from the county, the official results. The total ballots cast were 8,254. Total registered voters, 11,029. The total votes that were cast, gosh, I think this is old information on here. Sorry, I'm reading from the wrong report. Let me grab it.
I thought this was intentional, Nicole, to just
No.
remind me that Stephanie, Councilor Kilmer, had the most votes from the previous election.
Absolutely not. I apologize. We'll get that corrected for you guys. I get to the right place. All right, we'll try this again. So total ballots cast was 4,159. Total registered voters, 11,166. Total votes, 4,015. We had 1,584 yes, 2,431 no's. So the ending results for ballot measure 6-196, which was for the library and 911 center, failed in the May election.
So that's the canvas of votes we're doing, because in our report, it's actually the last election when the mayor.
Yes, so
Okay.
I will send that out. I will put out a revised canvas on the packet that sits online.
Okay. Does this come up in a council meeting, or is this sufficient to?
We just need it in the record, so reading it in any minutes will cover that.
Okay.
The elections official just needs to accept that, which we've already done and submitted that in time for the county's requirements. So we've met the requirements. We've unfortunately just not given you the tools necessary to prep for your meeting.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
apologize.
Does anybody have any questions for Nicole? Thank you, Nicole. Next item is establishment of a multi-unit property tax exemption program. Is this you, Roger?
It is. One of the council's goals is to increase housing supply. The council has taken a number of steps, and I would say the council and the Urban Renewal Agency, steps or projects to that end. And it goes anywhere from amending the city's development code to reduce burdens, to providing land for the creation of housing, providing funding or gap financing for the creation of other housing. But there are other things that could be done, and one of the things that a few other communities are using, and they're using what's called the MUPTI program, or the Multi-Unit Property Tax Exemption Program, in an effort to create more housing through higher density. Basically, a MUPTI program in general allows for a 10-year property tax exemption, whether it be just the city or the overall taxing unit of taxes, for a 10-year period for qualifying development. Those qualifying developments generally are new developments that are 3 or more units, so a triplex or better, or let's say it's an existing building and they add another story on for housing, or they add an addition, or it's an existing building and it's completely redeveloped and for a new use. So maybe it was an office building in the past, but now they're going to create housing. Then that all qualifies if it meets that and other guidelines. Generally, and we've looked at a number of different cities, and there are 5 in Oregon that does it. The 2 that appear to be very successful are both Cottage Groves and Florence's. In looking at those, staff chose Cottage Groves because it has the least amount of barriers. The whole goal is to incentivize developers in moving forward. The fewer the better, fewer the barriers, the less cost it is to the developer, and thus the more incentive. It is specifically guided so it would be more like rentals, but it is prevented from being short-term rentals. So they can't get that use, and if they change the use within the time period, they would lose the exemption. The other couple of elements in there is that it must include at least one element that is considered benefiting to the public. And there's a list of several of those in there. Let me see. Oh, it just went away. Some of those include extra public space, amenities for public transit, maybe it's care facilities. There are a number of things. It also includes fixing up a blighted property or building, or if there's extra costs for infill for development. This really is more of a user-friendly. But another thing, per state law, this development has to be within a quarter mile of a fixed route public transit. Now, I have had a discussion with at least one of CCAT's board members, so they're willing to work with us depending on if there's a large development that could occur that's not near a fixed route. They'd be willing to work with us and see if they can amend the route. So they obviously see the need as well. I think this is a good program. In the most recently adopted MUPD program in the state is Florence, and Florence already has 80 units on the plans. Cottage Grove is in excess now of well over 100 units, and in talking with their city manager, prior to the implementation of this incentive program, they did not have a single one in the previous 20 years of a multi-unit triplex or better. So I think this would definitely help. I would say it's even more needed now than it ever has been before, and that's because of what's happening in our current housing stock with the changes as a result of which could be anywhere from state regulations to the impacts of COVID. We're seeing less and less rentals, and then that results in fewer supply, higher prices. So if we can somehow help with the supply end, that may be beneficial to all of our renters. And I would be remiss if I didn't remind the council that we are now designated as a severely rent burdened community, meaning more than 26% of our current rentals are being rented by people that are paying more than 50% of their income for that rental. So anything that we could do would be beneficial.
Roger, will you say that again?
26% of our rentals are occupied by renters who are paying more than 50% of their monthly income towards their rent.
Is that household income?
Yeah.
Thank you, Roger.
So steps in moving forward, if the council were amenable, staff would move forward with an ordinance similar to Grants Pass. And we would have to, if we want to do, get the full benefit of this.
Excuse me, Roger, Grants Pass or Cottage Grove?
Excuse me, Cottage Grove, thank you. If we want to get the full benefit of this so that all the taxes would be exempt for the 10-year period, we need to take this through a process, share it with the overlapping taxing districts, and then get basically 51% approval. It's very similar to the process that we recently used when we did an urban renewal amendment. I suspect we would get that approval because all of those taxing districts, let's say it's Coos Bay School District or ESD or the county, they're all having the same issues. And it's to their benefit to incentivize because it would benefit our citizens. So basically, while you can't take a vote because it's not an action item, if there's consensus for us to move forward, we could move forward with putting together the information, holding the necessary process with the overlapping taxing districts, and then we would come back to you for an action item and, of course, a public hearing once we get through those steps.
So just as a reminder, this is just on improvements on the property, right? So the current taxes that are being levied on these properties would still be the same?
You are correct. So if it's a bare piece of land, the owner would still have to pay the assessed property tax that's already existing on that bare piece of land. If it's an existing development, they would only have to pay the existing assessment, but not the increased assessment due to the improvements.
So we're not really losing anything at this stage. It's just encouraging development of those properties for rent.
Yeah, I really look at it as an investment. If on the city side, it's an investment in revenues that you'll be receiving in 10 years, but there's an immediate benefit to the citizens you serve.
And you said that this has been successful in other areas.
It is, and it really, the success depends on the number of requirements you put in on it. Newport has one, and in talking with their city manager, he admitted that I actually knew more on his program than he did, because theirs is a lot more difficult, and in fact, they've only had one project since it was implemented. Versus Cottage Grove and Florence have a number of different ones.
Any other questions for Roger?
I just want to thank Roger and staff. We have some big goals, and you always come to the council with solutions and ways to achieve the goals. So I just want to thank the staff for all of their efforts in this.
Thank you.
Has there been any?
I have a few comments.
Go ahead, Joe.
So, I support the project. I think it's a great way to go. I'd like to see maybe more than a threeplex, maybe 3 units. I'd like to see a fourplex, sixplex. Another thing, I would not like this urban renewal agency, or urban renewal areas. It already help places downtown like the Hub and the place with building that Rob Cropper has. And so I would hate it to be a double dip, which could potentially happen. So I'd like to exclude these urban areas.
Does that pose a problem, Roger, with the CCAT route if we exclude the urban renewal districts?
It doesn't. You could set up the program as you wish. You just have to weigh the benefits. Is this something that would possibly help, let's just say the American building, if they were going to redo those upper 2 floors? You just kind of have to weigh whether this is good or bad. Will it hinder it? Would it help it? But I certainly understand the mayor's thoughts in it.
Thank you.
So with the American building, I know that Rob Proctor will be coming before us like he has in the past. So I'm sure he's going to ask for hundreds of thousands of dollars to the facility, which I can support. But if it's in the tax abatement, then it'd be a problem for him to do that. So I think we need to keep that in mind for renewal areas.
Sarah, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I would agree about the difference with URA, and I think people remember that I have some concerns just about us incentivizing developers, which are definitely not in the business of, but I think the lack of housing is holding us back from growing economically, and potentially, and every large project potentially comes into our community up against housing access. And a really diverse community with lots of different people, and I think different kinds of housing those agent. So I come in.
Thank you, Sarah.
Does keeping the program out of the urban renewal boundaries, does that create a level of complexity for staff to deal with, or developers?
I don't think so. And as I sit here and think about this, the reality is that the urban renewal is in a position where it can provide more assistance at a greater or at a higher level than someone could reap from a tax abatement. So I think there's a way to handle it and to tell people a way to move their project forward.
And one of the things, today you gave a wonderful report to Rotary about things that are happening in the city, and I thought maybe, that was good incentive for me to run for council because so many great things are happening in this community. But one thing that you did talk about was housing starts. Do you think this will encourage more than what we're already seeing? The numbers are, increasing every year. Or is it just going to create an incentive that people will take advantage of that they were already going to do anyway?
Well, while we have seen 119 housing starts since 2016, very few have been multiple units. In fact, there's only 2 that I know of which were multi-units, and one you incentivized. I mean, you created it to happen because you provided the land, and then someone saw what somebody else was doing, and they pretty much mimicked it. But other than that, we're not seeing triplexes or better. And I don't think it hurts to say you wanted a 4-plex. I believe, I want to say it's Salem that requires 5-plexes. So I think the 4-plex is fine. I think the idea of not having it in urban renewal is fine. I do believe you'll see something different than what you're seeing now. You're seeing mostly single-family homes or occasionally duplexes. But generally when you have, let's say it's a 4-plex or better, more often than not, those are going to be rentals. And so you're really hitting a specific market and a need that's currently out there.
And a better use of the limited property that's available for housing.
You're correct, because it creates higher density on properties.
Any other questions or comments for Roger? So you need, a consensus from us?
Yeah, and I think I'm hearing consensus. I'm not, if everyone's okay with the 4-plex or better and not within the urban renewal district, I think we have the rest of the framework.
I think it's great.
Yeah, I'm fine with 3 and better. So either way is fine with me, 3 or 4.
Me as well.
And I think it's always good to remember that these are living documents subject to change by the council, although once we set this in motion, it becomes a little more complicated when we make a change because we have to go back to the overlapping taxing districts.
Okay, got it. Thank you, Roger.
I did remember one question. The state mandates the fixed route by public transportation. We weren't able to get around that being in a rural community.
No, my suggestion would be is to work with a lobbyist and lobby the legislature when it comes back in to expand that for smaller rural communities to a half-mile, because there's going to be developable property out there that's going to be outside the list, and it might make it easier if we can do something and increase that boundary. And I think the state might be amenable because they're seeing this all over the state that they need more housing.
Thank you.
You have everything you need?
I do.
All right. Moving on, next item is discussion regarding development of an Empire Master Plan. Should I just go directly to Lucinda or somebody else doing it?
I'm going to be quiet. Go ahead, Roger.
Is it,
Well, it has been discussed on a number of occasions about a desire to look at a potential master plan for Empire to help kind of map out what is it that you all have a vision for Empire, and what needs to be put in place to help incentivize that vision to come true. As you know, there are several things in Empire that are within your goals, and one was to look at zoning, which has been done. You currently have asked for an evaluation of the design standards that are within Empire. Is it helpful? Is it not helpful? Is it stopping development? At the same time, we have a master plan for the Hollering Place, but is it dated? Is it going to help us achieve something, or is it preventing us from getting there? There are a number of things that could be looked at, although a number of steps have been taken. There is a standard look out there now with your period lighting that was incorporated onto South Empire Boulevard. There's going to be talk about, matching street furniture for both the downtown and out there. But is there a greater vision that needs to be made for that downtown business core? And if there is, then I think, in my mind, we should use a process very similar to what I believe was a very successful process with the Front Street Blueprint Plan, where you used an outside consultant who helped guide you through a process, who engaged the public to come up with a shared dream. We've all seen where maybe we come up with a dream of a small group, and then it's not accepted by the larger community. And this one here, I think it really needs to be that Empire community that needs to be involved in this. To the point that when I talked about should we start moving forward with a utility art box program that the community of Coalition of Empire wants, and one of you came back really quickly and said, "Oh, should we be embarking on that? Why we are going to be contemplating a master plan, or should that be part of the master plan?" And it was a great question. So I guess my question for you, is there consensus that we kind of look at towards a master plan? Carolyn has chimed in, and she believes maybe a TGM grant might be, which is what you just got for Front Street Blueprint, successful. Maybe we can catch the heels of that one and apply for another one.
So I had a question about that, actually. The grant award for Front Street was $185,000, but they already had some sort of a plan in place that just got amended, correctly?
You do, but you have some plans in place as well. I mean, in essence, you have the urban renewal plan, you have design standards, you have the Hollering Place master plan. I think there's someone, I think a consultant could help guide us through what were the intent and the goals of all that. And is there something else that we could put together, much like, and maybe we need to call it not a master plan, but, your action steps or your blueprint. Or something that's consistent. Some of those things do take years to accomplish, and maybe what that also needs is to entail, okay, if you're going to incentivize something, is urban renewal going to be the right tool? Or because it's going to be getting close to end of life for the Empire District, what else will we need to do? Is there a step that the council or the agency may need to take in the future?
Didn't we just extend the urban?
Well, you've increased the maximum indebtedness, which, depending on the development of that district, may or may not take longer to pay down. But your district actually is not set by years. It's just set by how long it takes to do the maximum and reach your maximum indebtedness.
I think my question is, and you mentioned it here tonight and also today in your presentation about how that vision by a council back in 1996, I think it was, helped stage for what's happening today on Front Street, which has been very successful. I agree with Councilor DeNovo. I think we need a plan or a blueprint or something like that, and I agree with you that it needs to involve the Community Coalition of Empire and a lot of transparency in the community of Empire. But do we think we can get it done quicker than 20, 30 years? Because I don't want to stifle development out there when we have something in process to kind of help move development along. But at the same time, I really think we need to create a vision.
I think, if I may, Roger, I want to actually speak to this because I was on that committee, I think back in 2015, is that right?
2017.
2017, so yes, former councilors did do the work, but it was 2017 and the museum was really involved in that, and all the businesses along the downtown in the Front Street area. That was really the impetus. So the fact that we managed to they got a grant and they managed to get that plan in place, And then we got the grant, the transportation grant just recently. So I think it's quicker than that. Yes, was there a lot of work done back in 1996? Yes. Did they have vision? Absolutely. I'm a little hesitant to, I think you want to call it a blueprint, fine, but it's really a master plan, and I just think we probably should call it a master plan. And what I would want to make sure that we didn't do is that we're waiting for this tough grant, was that the transfer, TUF grant, right, Roger? Before we start on this project. I think we need to start on this now.
Yeah, and I would be remiss, I chatted with Carolyn, and Carolyn did a lot of the heavy lifting on the Front Street Blueprint Plan. And she has shared with me a number of times the fact that while we may have a Hollering Place master plan, the reality is we have very little in our development code about those, and I can't remember how many acres it is to the north on the waterfront to help guide that. And the master plan really should be including that as well. And I would also be remiss if I didn't include that one group. Well, and the community coalition is extremely important. It's also important to loop our planning commission in as well. Those who help build it, help support it.
Joe or Sarah, do you have a comment?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I support a master plan. I think we need to head down that road a little bit more than just a blueprint plan. I think what we've done in the past in Empire needs to be reviewed, but it doesn't need to be, taken off on that aspect. I think maybe some of the design standards and everything else needs to be looked at, but I think we need to think about starting from scratch. That was my take. And involving a coalition and a planning commission and an individual property ourselves.
I think Jill mentioned the design standards. Did you need an answer on that from us as well tonight? Because you talked about maybe we should halt that process.
Well, I know that we're in mid-stride with the design standards. It's kind of my impression that we might want to put a halt to that at the moment and let the master plan guide that process. I would hate to go all the way through or to move forward with design standard changes only to have it change again because of the master plan. When the city first went through the Front Street master plan in 1996, it was from that master plan that the Waterfront Heritage District was created. So that really was the impetus that started the changes to the development code, which included the Waterfront Heritage Design Standards. So I really think it's more of I'm not an artist, but it's kind of a paint by numbers kind of kit here.
The Empire boundary, I noticed that quite a large piece of property on the waterfront to the south of the Empire boat ramp went up for sale.
Yes.
Does that boundary include those properties? I mean, do we need to, does that affect your thoughts on halting or moving forward? I mean, because my thought is that that's going to be developed.
Possible, although that's pretty challenged properties down there on the waterfront. You can discuss through the process what the boundaries of the master plan will be. Of course, your urban renewal boundaries are fairly well set now, but it doesn't mean that the master plan itself has to stay within the boundaries, although it's your urban renewal that has the incentive power to make something happen. Our thoughts, I think, internally was it would actually be your core business district and your waterfront properties that would be included.
So was your question, do the Empire design standards apply to that property?
Well, I don't know if I had included that. I was just thinking that, we could, I guess it is part of the question. Does the standard that's in place right now currently take in property along the waterfront, either to the north or the south of that Empire boat ramp?
I thought it only affected properties on Newmark.
I think you are correct. I think it's just a small group.
But ultimately, to your point, Roger, we can decide what we want that area to look like. Doesn't have to stay within.
You could, and I think the process would help dictate what those boundaries are.
I thought, I'm sorry, Councilor Mize, I thought I just heard consensus from Stephanie and Joe, so I don't know how you feel about the matter.
No, you have my consensus as well. You know this is a big deal for me. I talk about it all the time, so I support it. Sarah, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I just, so it's taken us 30 years.
So do you have the direction you need, or do you
I
need
do.
something? Okay, thank you. Do you have an elevator speech for us, Lucinda?
I cannot, I was thinking in my head, is there something I want to say? And
It's your opportunity, come
no,
on.
I'm really, really pleased that it's not just me, there are other councilors and the mayor that thinks this is very important, so I'm thrilled for the community and look forward to more to come.
Thank you.
That was very succinct of me.
It was. Next item is discussion regarding selection of trash cans replacement project.
I'll take that one. So at council's direction, staff has been looking at getting more trash cans put into the Empire Urban Renewal District area, or the main thoroughfares through Empire, and also the downtown area. There's a couple of maps attached to your reports that show approximately 17 potential locations in Empire and another 29 in the downtown area. Staff looked at essentially three broad concepts of types of trash cans we might get. Some I'm just calling like more traditional trash cans. In your packet, there's an example of one type, and one type only, of a traditional can. This one we think might fare well in the weather that we experience here, and offers some protection from folks that want to reach into the garbage and spread it around, or protect it from wind. The cost of those types of trash cans are generally in the $500 and more range, but they're typically a little cheaper of the three concepts we looked at. We also looked at self-compacting trash cans. Those are pretty neat trash cans. They're certainly more expensive. Probably the cheapest ones we could find were about $2,500. You could spend $4,500 to $6,000 for each additional can, and that doesn't include the shipping and handling charges. These cans are solar powered. They have solar powered batteries that energize the can so that it can compact the trash, so you get more trash per can. But there's a tendency for those to get very heavy, and so it would require us to probably employ 2 people to empty trash cans. Right now we employ a temporary worker that visits about 50 cans a day, 5 days a week, and that cost is approximately $37,000 a year. So we would probably maybe almost double that at personnel costs just to get these, to take care of these cans. The other thing is there's been experiences from other communities that use these trash cans where there's a buildup of debris on the handles of these self-compacting trash cans, so people have a tendency not to use the trash can, but go ahead and empty their trash in the vicinity of the trash can. So it's caused some issues there. And then there's the ongoing maintenance cost of keeping the batteries fresh and refreshed. And that can cost $75 to $100 per battery. And there's 2 batteries typically associated with each of these self-compacting trash cans. We also explored the use of having one of our local solid waste providers, or not providers, but haulers, to provide the service of providing the cans and the servicing of the cans. And the cost for a reduced number of cans, I think I used an example of 40 cans. It was double what we're spending now for trash service along our main corridors in the downtown and Empire area. Staff's recommendation is we continue with a more traditional type of trash can, maybe something similar to what's attached to your report, and perhaps we try 1 or 2 examples, put them in a high-use area and see how they function and perform.
The self-compacting?
That's not self-compacting. That would be,
Did you consider maybe a hybrid option where some of the higher use areas, like the boardwalk by where the Welcome to Coos Bay sign is, I've been there walking and I've seen trash built up. A lot of trash comes out of it onto that grassy area, which doesn't look good, or in the street. And then you also see bags set next to it. When, you know, in peak summer months, maybe a hybrid option of using some kind of a compacting system in some of those higher use areas, maybe, you know, at the park in one location, and then the other types. Did you consider that at all?
certainly it's, I've thought about that, and it's certainly an option that can work.
I actually agree with I agree with Councilor Kilmer. I think that if we, I know that the mayor has been passionate about the subject, and I think especially on the boardwalk, to your point, Stephanie, and maybe in the parks, if we could try them out and maybe just get a few of them to see how they work, and then go the more traditional route with the other cans. I think that would be a great solution.
Yeah, and I still worry on the traditional can. Rob and I were driving through Empire the other day, and I don't even think the can was full, and trash had come out of it and was blowing down the street. So I still am concerned about some of those in those particular areas.
Mayor, did you want to?
Yes, please. So, you know, I'm still thinking, I think be critical of staff on this, but I'm a little bit more into self-compacting, hybrid, like Councilor Gilbert, you know, has suggested. We haven't reached out to Oracle, who probably uses this and have used it for quite a while. I tried reaching out to them today. Unfortunately, I was unable to make contact. You know, they have the same weather problems that we mentioned here with the solar. The other thing is, I don't think our labor level, I think it would go down because of, right, as of now, and I'm not just with bags about it, but we're getting these regularly, if not daily, if I see this happen. And even if there's a few pieces of garbage in there, they're getting empty. And then, as Stephanie's made comments, there's trash everywhere. So the self-compacting is a little bit more not accessible or reached in as a traditional one. So that's my concern. I got these compactors because if I understand correctly, what I have looked for calls, having to get a cell phone service code that I think Cole was looking into it. We might look at $12 a month per kid. Would notify us when they need to eat. That would save staff time also. Well, maybe you could pick 2 people, but I think it might take 2 people once a month instead of going down every day.
So, Mr. Mayor, do you want to go all solar, is what you're saying, or do you want to do the hybrid?
No. You know, I think the hybrid might be the way to entities, which is, even if we save on the labor, I think that it's been mentioned by the city manager that, this garbage is picked up when they're also watering. So there's a hybrid type thing going on there too. So maybe the hybrid might be the way to start.
I would also be interested, I know this is more work, but I'm worried about vandalism to those more expensive units, and it might be worth a phone call to somebody that's using some of them to see if they do have issues with people vandalizing them.
Yeah, I agree. I had the same concern, and I'm thinking I could support a hybrid model here, but I'm liking Jim, I don't know if it was your idea, Jim, or somebody else's, of maybe ordering a few of these and just trying them out for a little while and before we make this huge investment.
What
I
is
think
that?
you can put one maybe by the BCB or the Information Center, maybe another one. The individual that you need to contact and report is Quentin Bauer, and I have his phone number. Like it. Cell number is 871-75-324. His office number is 503-5545.
Joe, you might need to email that because you're cutting out.
Okay, I'll call Jim. I'll give you that.
I like that we're moving towards this, though. I think it's going to make a difference in how our community looks, just even with trash cans.
Yeah.
I think some of those have been around a while and need to be replaced.
Do you have your directions?
I think I do. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Next item is discussion of council goal to establish uniform standards for the placement of streetlights.
I'll take that one. Like you said, this is one of council's goals. The attached policy is intended to meet this goal and provide guidance for the uniform installation of streetlights in the city's right-of-ways. Our current Coos Bay Municipal Code 18, which is the engineering standards, states that due to limited resources, the city will not install, pay for power, or maintain new streetlights in existing improved right-of-way. Chapter 18 goes on further to state that the city may consider paying for power and maintenance of new streetlights installed in dedicated street right-of-way as part of the acceptance of a new subdivision and its infrastructure. Where specialty lights fixtures are desired, financial responsibility can be negotiated per our code. Per this draft policy that's before you tonight, if the city needs to replace or contemplate installing or removal of street lighting in existing right-of-way, the city will consider factors such as traffic, crash data, and roadway characteristics to support lighting replacement and removal decisions. The American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, did you know there's such an organization? Anyway, AASHTO, provides a threshold or minimum conditions for when to consider street lighting. However, meeting an AASHTO roadway lighting design guideline warrants does not obligate the city to undertake a lighting project. And further, we would also defer to ODOT lighting policy for guidance. The attached draft policy sets guidelines for installation of street lighting when installing new or replacing existing traffic signal poles. Policy also provides general guidelines for spacing of street lights based on street classification, and then also requires that LED luminaires be provided when we put in new street lights. If council supports this policy, it'll come back to you to be considered for adoption through a resolution.
Thank you, Jim. On the street light spacing, does the city already meet these standards?
What I did was I looked at standards that other communities use and looked at ones that fit fairly close to what we have. Do we meet it exactly? No. But I think those on our main thoroughfares, like Ocean, are pretty close to this.
So the wording generally be required will get us by on that?
I think so.
And then also in your report, you said that the LEDs are required, but in here it says they're the preferred choice.
Okay. I think we want that to be the only choice.
Right, I agree. Any other questions or comments for Jim?
I would just say, not only would this meet a council goal, but this would actually help staff. It's not uncommon for us to get a request to add a new streetlight. And generally, it's because people want added security. And that's really not the purpose of streetlights. And having a policy or a standard would be easier for staff to share with the public, say, whether it meets or does not meet the standard.
Any other questions or comments? Do you need any guidance from us tonight?
No, thank you.
Did you send this to Phil for his review?
What's that?
Did you send this to Phil for his review? I think this is one of his things.
I did not, and I actually talked to him today.
All right, next item, discussion regarding food trucks on public property.
I'll take that one. Mayor Benetti had asked that we investigate the possibility of opening up one or more city parking lots to food trucks. And based on our transient business ordinance, which is in Coos Bay Municipal Code 5.05, transient business means a business that operates from various city-owned properties and city right-of-ways and has no fixed permanent location from which the business is conducted, and which shall not remain on public property at any one location in the city for more than the time specified on any single day. And the business is permanently affixed to wheels and must be removed each day. Further, we have Resolution 1920, which states transient business may conduct business on the following specifically designated city-owned property: the boardwalk and the west, approximately 2/3 of the Freeway. And if you looked at the attached resolution with your report, it shows the maps of those locations. Resolution 1920 further states that authorization to conduct transient business on public right-of-ways or on the specifically designated city-owned property controlled by the city of Coos Bay does not extend to city parking lots or other public properties. So when considering potential city-owned parking lot locations to designate spaces for food trucks, there are no areas really in East Side that would be workable, as for example, the boat ramp parking area is reserved for, I'm sorry, that's East Side. And, well, it's still the same. It's controlled by well, it belongs to the Port of Coos Bay, and the parking lot was paid for using Marine Board dollars, and so we have to reserve those parking spaces for people fishing and boaters. And the same is true for the Empire parking lot. In the Empire area, there may be a possibility of a park using a city park or the John Toppet's Park as a potential location for a food truck. In the Inglewood area, there's no really good areas for food trucks to park on public property in that area. Probably the best areas for food trucks in the community are in the downtown region. One potential location is the north lot of the VIC. However, that would have probably a significant impact on available parking. So that might guide us to the areas north of Curtis and east of 4th Street and looking at those parking spaces there. When looking at what would make a good, safe location for food trucks, we need to be cognizant of the ability of the truck to get into the area. We have to think about the other vehicles traveling through the area, and that there's room enough for customers of the food truck to safely queue up, make their order, and wait for their food. So with that, there's some maps that I included in your report that show possible locations for parking food trucks. And I put in your report a list of items that council might want to consider when making their decision on this, on how to proceed. Do we want to look at time limits for the use of designated spaces for food trucks? Do we want to prohibit occupancy of these spaces outside of established hours? Do we want to set specific days of the week when these areas are available? Are we going to allocate these spaces to vendors on a first-come, first-served basis, or are we going to have a lottery for using the location, or
Let me weigh in on this since I brought it up. I think it might be difficult to achieve what I was intending to have, maybe. The right way, it can happen in the right way. And I was thinking that maybe down businesses at this Pony Station is an example, if they want to use the food truck. I think what Jim has laid out for us would be very difficult to accomplish. Fashion I was thinking of, and maybe removed. So I appreciate all the work in this, but I'm not sure that we should proceed any further than the report we got.
I agree with the mayor.
Yeah, I struggle with this because we've just gone through a situation where, businesses are struggling to survive and still are, quite honestly. And I'm not sure that creating premium locations at the expense of parking, which we heard about today, we have parking issues. By taking away parking spaces is a great idea. I appreciate all the work too, but I'm not in favor of this at all at this time.
Yes, I agree with everything that's been said. Plus, we're already maybe losing 18 to 20 parking spots for a Tesla charging station, so that's not good either. Sarah, did you have any comment on this?
I think our recent URA investment in our country helps in the immediate future with locations for people.
Yeah, I agree. Seems like you have direction on this.
We do.
I'm just
So, Jim, I just want to thank you again for all the work you put into this. Obviously, it was quite a bit, and so thank you again.
Sure.
I'm curious to, just because I want to belabor this. No.
Yeah, keep going, Stephanie, I'm hungry.
What do we generate off a business license for a transient food truck versus, a general?
I think, Jim, do you have that, Jim?
No, I don't.
It's not a lot.
Right.
It's a minimal amount. It's the business license, and then there's a special fee for the transient.
Yeah, it's probably no more than $75 to $100 a year.
I think you're correct.
Thank you.
I had one short item, or just more of an announcement. The mural on 101 is nearly complete. It's, in my opinion, as a non-art critic, I think it looks great. But Mike has, the artist has let me know that there's still an opportunity to put a second coat on a few squares. And a group, I believe there are 3 city councilors coming from North Bend on Thursday at 10 a.m. And if you're interested, please let me know. That way we can make sure you get hard hats, and I can get you some information as to the appropriate shoe wear, no shorts, and a few other things.
I'd like to attend that.
I would also.
Okay. I will send out a general email, and then we'll make sure that we have the reflective vests, the hard hats, and there's a small training course that would be put on by the port, but that'll be something that you could add to your resumes.
I don't think they've even done Mark Anderson's fire training yet, have they?
I did pull the guard out a couple of days ago.
I'm sorry.
Thanks, Rob.
That was uncalled for.
It's totally uncalled. Don't give him the microphone anymore.
Didn't you have one more item about the Empire utility boxes or not?
Well, I think that might go along with the master plan conversation. And we do have a request from the Community Coalition of Empire to undertake an art program very similar to what the Downtown Association is doing. I'm not sure if that needs to go through the master planning process, or if you'd like it to give them some consensus so we could draft up an agreement. It's really up to your decision. I don't think it'll go badly with the Community Coalition of Empire either way.
So I can comment on that. If the concern is that we want to have it be part of the vision for Empire, I'm assuming that part of this master plan is going to take into account the new mural out there, the Empire mural. And if that's the case, I can tell you that the idea of the Empire Coalition is to have the design of these utility boxes similar to what is inside the letters of the Empire
Cool.
mural. So I think we should move forward on it. That's just my opinion.
I'll support that. If that's the direction they're going, I think that's great.
Is it possible to get a mapping of where some of the areas are that they're looking at? I would support it. I do, when I was looking at the Front Street blueprint, I know I talked to you, I did have some concerns that maybe if we're looking at art incorporation, which is a very cool piece of any community, that we do have a standard.
Yeah, I agree.
And make sure that it fits within. And I think that now that Councilor Miles has elaborated on that, I could support that.
So a majority, it is in the email Roger sent us, the map.
Okay.
And the majority of them are on Newmark and South Empire Boulevard. I think that's going to, Newmark is going to be the initial focus for the group.
I just want to make sure that it stands out for the right reasons.
No, I understand. Sarah, did you want to comment on this? You were at that meeting.
Yeah, I'd like for your edit there to include the department hand in project. It seems like they have a good.
Thank you.
So to move forward, then what we'll do is I'll ask the city attorney to draft up an agreement with the Community Coalition of Empire, similar to the agreement that we have with Pacific Power.
Is everyone all right with that? Okay, is there any more comments anyone would like to make?
I have a comment. We had some sound issues tonight, and we're still having challenges with the system that we're using. And I've heard chatter that we still want to use meetings, Microsoft Meetings, and I just want to throw it out there that I think Zoom is the direction we should go. We're seeing that with if you go to like Portland City Council and other city councils, they're using Zoom. I think I'm super thankful to the staff for always trying to be very thoughtful with how we spend our money, but I think we're spending way too much time being worried about a sound system, trying to manage it. Nicole, you have better things to do than be back there trying to manage that stuff. And so I would like us to take a look at a new sound system if we're not already doing that, using Zoom, and either mounting cameras here so that people can see our faces, or owls. I think we use owls at the Mill Casino, and I think we ought to spend the money. And I think every time there's a meeting here, we should have a tech on board, so you're not having to worry about it. That's all I have to say.
I was going to also comment on that, but I will just say I concur. I haven't done a lot of meetings remotely, but I can imagine if I was a member of the public trying to attend a meeting, and, you know, it's the way of our world now. Just having to have done that on Tuesday, I'm used to echo and looping and feedback because I did that for a living for 28 years. But most people can't get past that, and I really would encourage our staff to look at something better than, and I know you're working on that. And I think we just need to be working towards that goal, and I think we need to get there quicker, sooner rather than later, because it was really, really difficult to hear on Tuesday. In fact, lost some of the audio like we did tonight. So.
Any other comments from anyone? Hearing none, I'll adjourn the meeting.
Yay!
From Pacific Power? Yeah, I can do that. I think, no question, I need to have it in the morning, but staff is, because right now,